Hey, good morning, everyone. Josh's Severe Weather, Wednesday, the 15th of May, the beginning of Eastern Pacific Atlantic hurricane season. We've got 2 more weeks before the Atlantic hurricane season. And we're going to talk a lot of tropics here in this video. I also want to talk about severe weather because since the second half of April, we've been in a pretty active period for tornadoes and severe weather. And unfortunately, that is going to continue here with more threats to the east and the south over the next couple of days and things heating right back up across the plains as well. We're going to go out with a bang here this spring. Let's talk tropics first, and I'll have some chapters if you want to skip ahead in the video to look at your specific region, but I think tropics are obviously a topic that a lot of folks have been talking about for a very good reason, and we are going to see things popping here not too long from now, with potential development coming this weekend off of the Mexican coastline. Now, fortunately, that system doesn't look like it's going to be a threat and it's not going to impact the United States, but it is a harbinger of what could be a pretty active start to the season. You can see the fire icons here indicating much above average ocean water temperatures across pretty much all the Gulf of Mexico, all the Caribbean, and all of the deep tropics here. So a loaded gun set up here for what can be rapid intensification once we get the right ingredients to see that happen. We are probably going to be okay for a little bit longer here in the Atlantic. The season starts June 1st, and it's looking a little bit less likely we see something before Memorial Day in the United States, but more likely as we head into the beginning of June. That's not to say something couldn't come off the coast, spin up a bit of a weak system. That's happened quite a bit here in the last 10 years. But really, we've got to get to June before things start getting more concerning. So now's the time to prepare. Certainly, we are seeing that buildup of storms on the Pacific side here. And right now, nothing circulating into a low pressure center, but general thunderstorm activity here getting going here. So we are starting to see more action here in the Pacific. And we continue to see a very active Pacific jet stream. So two things to watch here. One, an area that may bubble up into a weaker tropical system. And two, the continued onslaught of fast wind flow aloft from the Pacific that will be affecting the plains and the southeastern United States in the next couple of weeks. So neither is good. The two counteract each other, obviously, but neither is really good for us here. The Gulf of Mexico is pretty quiet right now, except for Florida. We have a tornado watch for central Florida. You can see that front lighting up just to the north and west of Orlando. The threat continues this morning as Florida has had a pretty busy spring here. It was very busy in the winter. Then we had a break in March and early April. Now it's picking back up again. The Caribbean's in pretty good shape. We do have thunderstorms blowing up over Central America, but nothing to really be concerned with. Fortunately, Puerto Rico is a little bit drier than when we last talked a couple weeks ago. You can kind of see the dry air in place, but we may still have a few flare-ups of showers and storms, and things are going to pick back up here in the next week or so. And then out across the deep tropics, we are starting to moisten up. Nothing of great concern right now. However, you can see we're starting to set the framework for what's going to be a busy June once the wind shear does die down. So the tropics are getting ready to be a loaded gun at this point in the Atlantic, but we're not there yet. We have seen an end to the El Nino. You can see these cooler waters off the Pacific, these deeper blues indicating a transition coming to La Nina. You can see that here over the Eastern Pacific. We're not there yet over the Central and Western Pacific, but we're heading in that direction. And this is colder water from below that is upwelling, and that is going to be transitioning us into a La Nina. And probably the biggest question mark that I think a lot of us are having right now is what's going to be the impact of that on the hurricane season. A more neutral La Nina can mean a little bit more wind shear in the Atlantic basin, meaning less opportunities for there to be named storms. A stronger La Nina can be the opposite, where we've got lesser wind shear on the Atlantic side and more named storms. And right now, the forecast, I believe, in between the two is probably the way to go. So definitely an active season coming. One other thing I want to point you guys to is not just the warm waters, but the profile of the warmth of the waters. And you can kind of see like this horseshoe shape in here. This indicates cooler waters over the western and northern Atlantic, warmer here. These are going to define the currents for where storms are going to form and go. And when you see something like this, that favors more storms coming into the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico than what you would typically have. So this is not what you like to see if you're on the Gulf Coast or on the southeastern coast at this point. And certainly not in the Caribbean or the Bahamas either. So this is continued to be an area of concern. We don't know exactly what's going to form and when, but we obviously know that the threats for more storms coming through this alley here are certainly real, and that's what we need to be watching this season. Here's a look closer to home. Everybody's warm except for over the Outer Banks and Mid-Atlantic region, where we have yet another cool May. That, by the way, was the case in 2020 as well, where we had 30 storms. Again, it's not necessarily the number of storms, but the magnitude of them that I'm concerned with, but a lot of storms are certainly in the forecast. And you can see over the last week, things continue to warm up here. This is the anomaly change. It's not the water temperature change, but the change in how much above average we are, and it continues to climb around Florida and the Eastern Gulf, Cuba, and the Bahamas. So not only are we still warming up, but we're warming up faster than average. And that, of course, is of concern. A little bit cooler near the ocean at this, or near the coast at this point. Again, it's the deeper tropics we need to be a little bit more concerned about at that point. Here's the Nino 3.4 index, the ONI, Oceanic Nino Index. We were obviously in an El Nino, which is anything north of 0.5 above average. We are now down pretty much to neutral at this point, right at zero, and the trend will likely be for it to drop. There'll be some undulation, but we are expecting it to drop, and a La Nina will form at some point, either this summer or fall, and that is expected coming off of a stronger El Nino. You're going to have a La Nina at some point. I think the bigger question is, do we have a triple dip La Nina like we saw in 2020, 2021, and 2022, or do we go back towards a neutral or even an El Nino? And again, I'm not that good. I can't tell you at this point. We can only speculate. The Gulf of Mexico is warm. You can see we cooled off a little bit around the beginning of May. We're right back to almost a degree above average, and that, of course, is concerning. What it's also concerning is the amount and depth of that warm water, and you can see the oceanic heat content here in the Western Caribbean, the Southeastern Gulf, and the deep tropics is pretty much in line where we would be heading almost into the peak of hurricane season. Hurricane season starts in 2 weeks. This profile is more what you would expect to see in late July. That, of course, is of concern. Here is the European latest seasonal forecast from May. This came out just a little while ago. And you can see the forecast we have this year is higher than any year in the past. And the green line, that standard deviation, is way up there. Even 2020 was a busy year for storms, but not necessarily for the magnitude of stronger storms, the ACE, accumulated cyclone energy. That actually was higher in 2010, and it was pretty high as well in 2005. But you can see as this model continues to get more skillful, it continues to trend in a direction we don't want to see. In fact, it is predicting on the average, we are going to be twice the average amount of accumulated cyclone energy, meaning it'll be not just a hyperactive season, but twice what you would expect in an average season, which is extreme. The number of storms it's predicting is 23. The average is 14 or 15. The Pacific is showing about average at 14. The Western Pacific a little bit below average. If you total all these together worldwide, this is going to be right up there towards the top of the charts. Where are the storms more than likely to form? Well, in the Atlantic, you can see we're expecting enhanced numbers of storms pretty much everywhere close to the U.S. coastline. And I wish I could say that I'm not trying to scare you, but that is what we're seeing in the forecast. All the ingredients lining up for that, where if we do have storms, they're going to be threats to the Gulf, the Southeast coast, the Caribbean, and over the Central Atlantic. We're also going to see enhancement around the Arabian Sea and Southeastern Asia, including Korea and Eastern China. Interestingly, the area where the strongest typhoons typically form will be seeing a reduction in expected storm tracks and development. And that's better news for them because last year was insane out here, but we're paying for that here on the Atlantic side, unfortunately. And you can see that density of storms expected to be almost 100% higher than average here near Florida. Again, very concerning. And then let's look at the shorter term, and you can see over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start to see potential storm systems east of the Philippines, over the Bay of Bengal, probably over the Arabian Sea, and potentially here in the Indian Ocean. These will be threats to Asia, unfortunately. On the Atlantic side, nothing of great concern. We may start to see things spinning up here east and north of Panama and Costa Rica, which you might expect to see as we start getting that gyre going here. It's not showing anything on the Pacific side, but we do have a model showing a potential threat here for our first storm to form probably towards the weekend. Right now, it's a 30% chance over the Gulf of Tehuantepec. Right now, models are showing it paralleling the coast and then heading out to sea. So fortunately, not going to be a threat. The first name on the list is Aletta, and this is a letter to you to start preparing. That's a bad joke, I know. But if you look at the GFS ensemble here, this is a bunch of potential solutions. We start to see some spinach here by Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, and then some model solutions by next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, showing a potential tropical system, more than likely heading out to sea and then into cooler waters at the end of next week and not becoming a threat to any land at that point. Here's a GFS operational. It's probably too aggressive. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Saturday showing a storm forming, and then rapid intensification Sunday and Monday into a 970 millibar hurricane. That's probably not going to happen, but you know what? We saw Otis last year that came into Acapulco and went from tropical storm to Cat 5. So this, fortunately, if it does that, it's not going to hit land, but something we'll be watching. I will say that GFS does have a bias towards strengthening storms very quickly early in the season when in fact they don't really happen. So again, we're going to watch it for you guys here. Here's a look at the Atlantic side. You can see lots of wind shear indicating where we're going to have active weather, but not tropical activity, at least over the next week or so. You will see lots of wind shear over the Caribbean next week. And then as we head towards Memorial Day and after, we do see some reduction in shear coming in the deep tropics here. So at the end of the month of May, more favorable conditions for waves that come off of Africa to start to maybe try to form into something. Again, it's over 2 weeks out. We're just speculating at this point, but something we'll be watching. Now, back in the United States, we had interesting weather here. Very destructive storms over Texas and Louisiana. Heavy rain a couple days ago. We had fatalities in the Baton Rouge area. Just really upsetting to see that, of course. Those storms have moved into South Florida. We still have a flare up there to watch. This upper level low that we're tracking here over the Tennessee Valley does need to be watched. You'll see there's going to be kind of this piece of energy that comes up into the Carolinas today that could trigger a few intense storms. We saw a couple of low-end supercells yesterday evening with some tornadoes reported east of Fayetteville over into Columbus County, North Carolina. That area has got to be watched again today. But what also needs to be watched is this big upper level trough, which is going to drop down here into the plains and activate more storms here. We've got an enhanced risk that we need to be watching for severe weather. So we're going to talk about that. I meant to show you guys this, and I apologize. Skipping back again, you can see we are going to start to see more favorable action here for thunderstorm development that could lead to tropical activity at the very end of May. This is May 29th through June 3rd. And once the colors go green, that means we're seeing less wind shear, more divergence, and better conditions for upward motion. Take a look at the second and third weeks of June. Things could get very active very quickly if this is right. And again, I'm not sure yet if it's going to be right or not. It's just what we're going to be tracking for you guys. I had one more thing to display here, and I don't know where it went. I have to keep tabs on everything, just so you guys know. There's probably 50 tabs open. That's okay. We're going to do more videos. All right. Severe weather threat today. We've got a slight risk in the Carolinas, Central Florida, and then an enhanced risk this afternoon, and especially tonight, over the central and southern plains here. North and west of Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Perryton is in that, just south of Wichita. That is going to include some potential tornadoes in here. It's also going to include perhaps some significant wind gusts over 75 miles per hour, like we saw in Louisiana 2 nights ago. Northwest Texas, Oklahoma, getting close to the I-44 corridor, but not quite there yet. We also have the threat for some severe wind and hail, and maybe a couple tornadoes from near Charlotte and Columbia on through eastern and southern parts of North Carolina, as well as all the way to Myrtle Beach and Calabash here, North Carolina. We have that threat this morning to about midday, extending down to I-4, then into the early afternoon hours around the Space Coast, maybe all the way down to Punta Gorda, Florida. Threat for hail in these areas as well. Tomorrow, we are going to quiet down in the Carolinas. We get a break. Things are starting to quiet down in Florida, maybe a few lingering showers and storms, but our next system is going to advance eastward. We'll see an area of slight risk here that could get upgraded to enhance somewhere across the big sky country of Texas, maybe all the way to Dallas and Houston. Marginal risk across parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, moving into Kentucky and Tennessee later in the afternoon. And Louisiana is again on the list to potentially get hit. Best chance for tornadoes will be across West Texas tomorrow afternoon. Severe wind will be a better chance, and maybe some very big hail in supercells that form across this region. Friday, it shifts eastward into the Mississippi Valley and back into the Gulf states, Louisiana, Mississippi, western Alabama, maybe even the Tennessee Valley, maybe all the way up to the Ohio River, does have that threat for severe weather on Friday. The best chance, though, is going to be down around Baton Rouge, Macomb, Brookhaven, Jackson, Hattiesburg, maybe all the way to Meridian, all the way back into parts of central Louisiana and down towards Acadiana there. Here's a look at the NAM real quick. I don't want to get too specific because it's just one model. You can see action across Florida this morning. We're going to stay wet across the mid-Atlantic and Northeast today. Not heavy rain, except maybe for Long Island. Here comes the next wave, though. Showers and storms firing up across the mid-Atlantic from the upper low. We'll have to have some heating of the day, but this is about 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight. We'll have some heavier showers and storms over parts of Minnesota, but the more active weather will be Kansas down to Texas here this evening, and then continuing into tomorrow. The storm shifts eastward tomorrow. We will see heavy storms over Texas, Louisiana, maybe Arkansas, maybe the Ozarks, and then tomorrow evening heading into Tennessee, Kentucky, downstate Illinois, and Indiana. Keep an eye on things in the Great Lakes region. Right now, it doesn't look too intense, but you know, Ohio's had some weird stuff happen this year, so Friday we could see more action across that area. Here's a quick look at the southeast. You can see storms moving through central Florida here this morning, heading towards South Florida and dying this evening. More storms firing up here with the heating of the day across the Carolinas. We'll see more sun today in places like Raleigh and Fayetteville than yesterday. And that could certainly mean less of an area of major rain like we saw yesterday. It was 2 inches in Raleigh. More likely scattered showers and storms that develop and slowly sit on top of you. So it's going to look a little bit different than yesterday. As we get to tomorrow, quieting down across the southeast. Next storm, though, moves into the south central states, and that will bring rain back into the southeast on Friday. Here's the mid-Atlantic region, cool and wet here across much of the northeast today. The heaviest rain, though, should avoid the big cities and stay off the coast. We're going to see pop-ups over western PA, West Virginia, the mid-Ohio Valley, eastern Kentucky, and then more instability here in the Carolinas and maybe parts of Virginia, southwestern Virginia. And then we dry out tomorrow. We'll see scattered showers over the New England coast. Things start picking back up, though, as we get into Friday. Here comes the next wave of showers and storms. In the south central United States, we'll see a few showers and storms moving eastward, but the bigger storms starting to fire up near the Texas-New Mexico border, southeast Colorado around 6, 7 o'clock. You can see kind of these bounded areas where we've got some more helicity, more turning in the atmosphere, individual discrete supercell type storms. These are the kind you'll storm chase, not the ones in the Carolinas. And it'll get active this evening. We could see destructive wind and hail and a few tornadoes as well. I don't think we're going to see big time EF4, EF5 tornadoes, but certainly a few tornadoes are going to be possible across this area. And then another wave dropping southward tomorrow into central Texas. Big time showers and storms actually behind this round of heavier rain forming here across the Big Sky country in the evening. This shifts into Louisiana. The model stops here at 2 in the afternoon, but I think the afternoon and evening are going to be busy down here again, maybe another convective system. And this severe weather that we're dealing with is unfortunately not done. The East Pacific Oscillation, when it goes negative, we tend to see bigger outbreaks of severe weather. And a couple weeks ago, it looked like there was uncertainty in the longer range, but we would start to trend out of it. Unfortunately, there's good agreement here as we get into next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, that we have a big dip coming, meaning more severe weather potential, maybe a bigger tornado outbreak again here in the plains. That would be during the first half of next week. The EPO, when it goes negative, that means we got faster wind flow coming out of the Pacific, stronger jet stream, more dynamics in place for that severe weather. Here's a look at what we're going to talk about here. The GFS shows real quick our big storm moving over the south central U.S. You can see this low pressure center over Oklahoma on Friday morning. That's going to move off the coast here over the weekend, but here's the next one. Cutoff low coming down from California. That's that negative EPO. Take a look at how quickly the wind speeds aloft start speeding up here Monday evening. We'll probably see a pretty active night Monday. Again, too early for specifics, but generally looks pretty bad. Tuesday, the Mississippi and Ohio valleys, parts of the deep south, you can see that. And then we get a break, and then it does it all over again over Memorial Day weekend across the Great Lakes, across the Midwest, and maybe the Northeast has severe weather as we get to that final holiday weekend here in May. Again, too early to get too specific, but it is coming. This is the climate forecast system from Northern Illinois University showing the active weather on the Gulf Coast this week, starting to get active in the plains. Next week, big area of potential severe weather from Texas, Colorado eastward. into parts of the mid-south. Maybe some severe weather in the southeast as well, but not as great as to your west. And this is the end of the month of May. And again, we are probably going to see a few outbreaks of severe weather from the plains on eastward. I do think we need to keep an eye a little bit farther northward for some severe weather based on what the GFS was showing across this region here. And that would be right after Memorial Day. But again, it's awfully far off in the distance to try to get too specific with that. So more will come. I apologize. I've not been on here almost every day like I really wanted to be. It's just been very busy for me this spring. As we get to hurricane season, I do think I'll be able to make some time to do a little bit more here. But a lot of irons in the fire, as you guys understand. Thank you all so much for watching today. If you did enjoy this video, I'd ask that you please consider subscribing as I continue to bring you my analysis. Again, don't feel you have to watch every minute of the video, but obviously if there are things you're concerned with, I'm happy to answer those questions when I've got some time. But I appreciate you all so much, and I thank you for your participation. But I want to give all the credit to God, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who has given me the strength to do this every day. Psalm 23:6, King James Version says, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Hope you understand that God is good. In fact, you can't even spell good without God. But mercy is what he provides through the resurrection of his son, Jesus. He gives us mercy. He washes us of our sins. And through all the days of our life, God is going to be good to you, no matter what you're going through. I'm staring at food wondering, am I going to gain more weight? Is this going to give me cancer? Blah, blah, blah. Look, we can all sit there and worry and be concerned over things, but God is the man upstairs in control. And rather than telling God how big the problems and stress and the things that you're going through right now is, how about you just tell all those things that how big your God is? So as soon as I accepted Jesus as my Savior, Easter Sunday 2013, I realized that, man, I'm putting my worth in too many bad things and I'm not putting it in God. God has given me a lot. He has blessed me in many ways. He's blessed a lot of a lot of his followers, not my followers. Oh, well, hopefully you guys as well, but with goodness, with mercy. And as soon as I accepted that, things changed, and it just took a big weight off my plate and gave me the strength to realize that I just can't control it all. All I can really do is say, look, God is here to fight my battles for me. He is good, and he's who created us. He put us on earth here to make a difference, and he's put me here to do this. I'm sure he's put you to do something big, and I pray that he continues to do that. And if you feel like you're struggling with that, it's okay to go to God in desperation, say, God, what are you going to do for me? Or God, how are you going to use me? And you know what? Ask your friends to pray for you. Ask your family to pray for you. Ask me. I will pray for you no matter what you're going through today, because I truly believe God still can use you in many miraculous ways like he has with millions and millions of folks before you. So I appreciate y'all's time today. I just wanted to get that off my chest because the longer I go without doing a video, the more I struggle, because in the end, I believe I've been called to help you all and to share the love of God and the love of Jesus Christ with you. So I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll catch up again here in a few days. Take care.